Listen, the resurrection of Jesus Christ proves that God has a whole lot more life to give than we've ever imagined. You see, he not only gave himself on the cross, he gave himself life in the resurrection. The life you need, it's available. God has it abundantly. But there's a second part of this. There's a second part of abundance. Abundance isn't just quantity, it's quality. Because here's how I really feel. If God doesn't make me a whole lot better than I am right now, I can't take eternal life. I don't want 1,000,000 years of this. Anybody? Don't you ever get sick of being an idiot? All right, I'll speak for myself. I get sick of being an idiot. I don't want to do this for 1,000,000 years. On the other hand, if Christ can do something enriching in my soul and I become the person that I think he's given me the potential to be, I want to do that for 1,000,000 years. Do you hear this? He came to give us a soul that is so enriched, that is so beautiful, that is so right to what we think it should be, that we want to live 1,000,000 years. I don't want to live 1,000,000 years making 1,000,000 years worth of idiot mistakes like I've made in the last 56. Christ said, I got something so much better for you. I have a life that is abundant in quality, in richness, in virtue, in dignity, that is honorable and worthy of respect. And I want you to have it. Now, I hope somewhere in your heart you're saying, look, that's the life I want. But I've wanted that life for a long time, and it seems like something keeps messing me up, knocking me off track. That's the kind of life I want. How is it that the resurrected life becomes a reality in our lives so we get to live an entire life without regrets? See, I want to be an old crank sitting somewhere. I want to live long enough to be a burden to my kids. Although they say I already am, so. Look, I want to get to the end of my life, and I want to have a deep sense of content. I want to say, I lived a good life. I'm happy with the life I lived. I'm content. I don't want to be in a hospital somewhere holding on to silver rails saying, I can't go, I don't have this done. I can't go, I didn't do this. I need one more stale breath of air so I can get something done that might make my life meaningful. I don't need that, church, and neither do you. So how is it that Christ starts developing the resurrected life within us so we get to live without regrets? What is the mechanisms in life that he uses? And I'm a firm believer that Christ works in us two ways. One is mysterious. He just does something in our hearts and heads. And I don't have any control over that. He just treats me better than what I deserve and shows up and says, hey, knucklehead, you're going in the wrong direction. Okay, but he also works in a very, very practical way that I have some control over. I believe Christ often works in my life to help me live the full potential life that he gave me by working through other people who are in my life. Do you hear this? Some of the most wonderful things God is ever going to do, he's going to do through somebody that is in your life, through somebody that you're open to, and God is going to speak to you, encourage you, he's going to challenge you, he's going to point you in a new direction, and he's going to help you live the life he created you to live. And in our church, we call that life groups. Do you see? In our church, we say, If you really want to live the full Christian life, you got to understand that it's a team sport and you can't do it by yourself. You see, the thief is going to beat you every time if you're playing all by yourself, because he's not playing by himself. He's got an ugly team and they're playing for keeps. But if you see the full life as a team sport, and you have other people in your life that you trust, and they encourage you, they inspire you, they comfort you, you talk about important things together, now God is at work in a non-mysterious way through people that you know, love, and trust, and God calls out of you the very best you have to offer through these other people. Now, doesn't that make sense to you? Our church is starting next week. This all church. I'm going to get everybody I can to read this book and join a life group, and once a week for an hour discuss living without regrets. This book is divided into 30 chapters, and you're supposed to read one a day, and these chapters ask you to think about one concept that if you think about this and get it right, you make corrections and live without regrets. Look, we're not the only church doing this. In fact, thousands of churches have done this all over America, and I have a news clip of what that looks like.
What if you knew you had just 1 month to live? That's the question asked by a best-selling book of the same name, and a challenge taken up by dozens of churches across the country. CBS News correspondent Jim Axelrod reports from Clinton, Oklahoma.
The sign of the times in Clinton, Oklahoma dots front yards on just about every street in this town of 8,500.
Anytime you got that many people, that percentage of people involved, it's news in Clinton, Oklahoma.
Rod Surface, the editor of the local paper, has watched a quarter of his neighbors challenge themselves to live the next month like it's their last.
This is the common conversation at the coffee shop every day. What would you do?
Nearly 24 churches have banded together to get 1,500 people here to study this best-selling book, which presents one soul-searching thought a day for a month, with the goal of living a better life. What's happening here in Clinton, Oklahoma, raises a legitimate question that could be asked on every main street in America. If you really had 30 days left, wouldn't your to-do list include a few not-so-noble items?
How about you?
But Kerry and Chris Shook, who wrote the book, say the joke's usually over when people really start to think about the punchline.
At the end of your life, I've never heard anyone say, I wish I had my sports car next to me. I want to touch it one last time.
At the Richard House, boys will be boys.
I think I would want to go see the Yankees play in New York.
But mom and dad know better.
You feel like you've been down this road before?
In fact, it was kind of hard for me to get into this book because of that.
7 years ago, their 2-year-old son, Aaron, drowned, profoundly changing the way they lived.
Losing my son made me value my time with my family and a lot more than I had previously.
But time, as it often does, began to round the sharpest edges of their heartbreak. The lessons learned from Aaron's death: slow down, live simply, focus on family. They started to fade as well.
You've forgotten what you thought you would never forget, and that is what's really important.
Something their neighbors have been learning.
If you knew you only had 30 days left, you wouldn't say, well, next time I'll take care of that. You would do it then and there.
Like all the folks taking the challenge, they're discovering the deep benefits of living their lives as if theirs were ending. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, Clinton, Oklahoma.